Hello again, curious acolytes of the Force, and welcome back to the archives. The third season of The Mandalorian is heating up with some interesting conflict revolving all around the legendary Darksaber. Now that Din Djarin is the wielder of this ancient blade, it appears that he is the rightful ruler of Mandalore, although it seems that he is having some trouble with this fact, as it has been made apparent that he and the Darksaber are not working with each other. The result of this is that the saber is incredibly heavy in Din's hands, with hopefully more revealed about this in the upcoming third season. Until that premieres, however, we wanted to do a recap on the Darksaber's journey through time. But more than that, we wanted to talk specifically about the strange weapon's attributes and potential theories that might explain why this specific saber is so much different than any other lightsaber ever crafted by a Jedi or Sith alike. I have made sure to put timestamps in the video so that you can know exactly where each topic begins and ends. Now, my friends, strap on your jetpacks, because now we begin. The origins of the Darksaber begin in 1032 BBY. In Legends, that is only a little over 30 years since the total destruction of the Sith Order. The saber was crafted by a Jedi known as Tar Vizsla, who is known as the first Mandalorian to ever be inducted into the Jedi Order. At some point in his life, Tar Vizsla showed up in the Jedi Order with a strange, black-bladed lightsaber with a design far beyond anything of its time. It was the first and only of its kind, not only sporting the signature light-eating dark blade, but also displaying a flat and more angled look such as that of a regular sword. Taking into account of Vizsla's heritage as a proud Mandalorian, it is understandable that his lightsaber would be a bit more unique to his taste in weaponry. Tar's connection to the Mandalorians appears to have had more of an impact on his lightsaber construction than initially thought, but we'll talk about that in just a moment. The Jedi Order was absolutely fascinated with Tar Vizsla's lightsaber, so much so that after his death, the Jedi kept the Darksaber within their archives, with the intent to study and learn from it. However, during the Republic's fall, it was taken by the Mandalorians that belonged to House Vizsla, who raided the Jedi Temple, with the weapon now going on a much darker path, as the descendants of Vizsla ironically used the very weapon to kill Jedi, and the weapon soon took on its own identity as it became a symbol for the rightful ruler of Mandalore. For this next part, we will be delving a bit into Legends to better link the past of the Darksaber, as well as explain the rise of Death Watch. Over time, the Darksaber was passed down through the clan's generations. By the year 60 BBY, the Darksaber had come into possession of Tar Vizsla. This generation of Vizslas assembled himself a group of malcontents who resented a man by the name of Jaster Muriel, a man who at the time was the ruling leader of the Mandalorian clans. They resented him so much though for his attempts to reign in their lifestyle of unaccountability. Tar Vizsla promised his clan the downfall of the new pacifist nature of the Mandalorians that they so despised, and so he formed a splinter group known as the Death Watch, taking his place as their rightful leader. Tar Vizsla made the Darksaber a symbol of his authority, and Vizsla kept ownership of the Darksaber through the Mandalorian civil wars between the Death Watch and Jaster Muriel's army of true Mandalorians, as well as the subsequent Great Clan Wars that erupted on the world of Mandalore. However, Vizsla was killed by Jango Fett not long after the end of the Great Clan Wars, and the Darksaber was then passed into the possession of Tar Vizsla's clan's kinsmen, Pre-Vizsla. Now, moving back into canon, following the discovery of the rogue Sith Lord Maul and his brother Savage Opress near their camp, Pre-Vizsla agreed to an alliance between Death Watch and Maul's Shadow Collective. On Mandalore, following the Shadow Collective's attacks on the police, Vizsla and his Death Watch troopers stepped in to protect against the collective forces of Maul. However, this was all actually staged with the intention of overthrowing Duchess Satine's government, who herself was a pacifist. Vizsla used the Darksaber in a staged duel against Opress, and then arrested him. Thanks to his efforts, Vizsla and the Death Watch were hailed as heroes in the eyes of the Mandalorian people. Vizsla then betrayed Maul and Opress and had them imprisoned. After their escape though, Maul challenged Pre-Vizsla for leadership of Death Watch as well as ownership of the Darksaber. Despite putting up an impressive fight with the use of both the Darksaber and his armor's numerous weapons, Vizsla was disarmed, defeated, and quickly executed by Maul wielding the Darksaber, thus awarding Maul ownership of the weapon and the rightful leader of Mandalore, passing ownership of the Darksaber to the first Force-sensitive and non-Mandalorian in dozens of generations, proving importantly though that it is possible. After Maul lured Kenobi back to the world of Mandalore, Maul used the Darksaber to kill Duchess Satine in front of Obi-Wan as part of his revenge against the Jedi. Afterwards, Maul and Opress were confronted by Maul's former master, Darth Sidious, who came to eliminate his former apprentice before he grew even more powerful. Together, Maul and Opress fought Sidious back, but they were no match against a a true Sith Lord. After Opress was killed, Maul drew the Darksaber and wielded it in tandem with his red blade against his former master, but was unable to win the day. Sidious tossed aside the Darksaber as he subdued and tortured Maul with his Force Lightning, with Sidious not desiring to wield the weapon. Following this, Prime Minister Almec recovered the Darksaber following Maul's capture by Sidious. After being freed from the prison Sidious kept him in, Maul reclaimed the Darksaber and used the weapon against General Grievous's forces when they came to the world of Zanbar in order to attack their base. Maul fought Grievous until his forces were forced to retreat, and after Maul returned to Dathomir to help Mother Talzin regain her physical form, Maul was confronted by Sidious and Grievous at the Night Sisters' village. He, along with Talzin who had possessed Dooku, fought Sidious and Grievous. Maul then used the Darksaber in the battle until he and Talzin were overwhelmed. As a result of this, Maul fled the battle as Talzin sacrificed herself and was killed by the droid general. The Darksaber was kept on Dathomir during the reign of the Galactic Empire for several years, kept by Maul in the Night Sisters' former lair, until it was eventually located, and Sabine Wren used it against Ezra Bridger while she was possessed by a Night Sister spirit. Ezra Bridger then used his lightsaber and the Darksaber to destroy the altar from which the spirits arose. Sabine then picked up the Darksaber as she, Ezra, and Kanan Jarrus left the world. With Darksaber in hand, Sabine eventually led a mission to Mandalore to rescue her father, Ulrich Wren, from Imperial custody. Here, she wielded the Darksaber during the fight, first at a remote prison, and later attacking the convoy taking her father back to Sundari. After all of this, Sabine surrendered the Darksaber to Bo-Katan, which has now been proven as a fatal mistake, as the weapon itself may be cursed. Bo-Katan would eventually lose the weapon to Moff Gideon during the Great Purge of Mandalore, known as the Night of a Thousand Tears, possibly proving the notion that the Darksaber did in fact have a curse on it. Many years later, and after Grogu's capture, Din Djarin located Bo-Katan and recruited her help to rescue the foundling child. Bo-Katan agreed to help after Din Djarin promised her the Darksaber. After a successful raid on Gideon's cruiser by Djarin, Bo-Katan and their associates, Din Djarin defeated Gideon in a duel and wrestled the Darksaber from his grasp. He brought the captured Moff to the bridge and tried to give the weapon openly to Bo-Katan, but she refused to take it, having remembered what happened last time she accepted the weapon without winning it in combat. A wise choice, of course, but one that has now sparked a conflict, as Din Djarin is now the ruler of Mandalore, which has sparked this brand new war. And this, my friends, is where the third season will kick off. But what about the actual attributes and powers of the Darksaber? Why is it so dangerous and seemingly more powerful than a normal Darksaber, and what gives it so much allure? While the Mandalorians may desire the weapon for the prestige that comes with it, the saber itself is quite interesting as well, and is actually quite different from a normal lightsaber. The first thing we wanted to talk about was the nature of the Darksaber's power. That is, why do we believe it's more powerful than a normal lightsaber? The Darksaber has a tendency to crackle and spark with a certain electricity when ignited. This is something that many people have pointed out, as the electrical property is exaggerated when it comes into contact with a regular lightsaber. We know of certain kyber crystals such as Etan, which are said to be able to eat other lightsaber blades by absorbing their energy. While we aren't sure if this is what is actually happening here, there is no mistaking the similarities between the effects of an Etan crystal and the Darksaber, as they both crackle with energy when in contact with other sabers. This might bridge the mystery as to what kind of kyber crystal is actually inside the Darksaber. Having said that, it is not known if the Etan crystals react strongly to the emotional state of their wielder like the Darksaber does. That crackle of power and electricity also happens when the user is in a heightened mental or emotional state. A very interesting phenomenon, as no other lightsaber seems to react this way. We know that lightsaber blades intensify and can be altered manually by changing the settings on one's lightsaber, but it is exceedingly rare that a saber reacts to the user in such a way as this. There is also no other saber that has this sort of electrical effect, making the Darksaber unique there as well. It is also not known whether Etan crystals have the capability to melt Beskar. Beskar, also known as Mandalorian steel, has become quite famous as of late, since it is one of the most potently energy-resistant materials in all of the Star Wars universe. Blaster bolts do about as much damage to Beskar as a ping-pong ball would to the hull of a starship. Beskar is also notoriously lightsaber resistant as well, which we have seen in many Jedi vs. Mandalorian fights, such as when Din Djarin briefly fought Ahsoka. However, one alarming fact about the Darksaber is that Beskar seems to have a specific reaction to the blade. When Mando was dueling Moff Gideon, the Beskar spear began to heat up and glow under the touch of the Darksaber. I would say that prolonged exposure like this would have been able to cut right through it. I imagine that Tar Vizsla crafted the Darksaber with his home world in mind, which is why he built the very hilt of the lightsaber itself out of Beskar, paying homage to both of his lives and paths. What may be the final piece of the puzzle to this mysterious weapon though, is analyzing Tar Vizsla himself. Unfortunately though, he is a man who is only talked about in the context of crafting the Darksaber. We don't really know who he was, or more importantly, what kind of man he was. However, we have our theories. Where Tar Vizsla's allegiances lie when concerning the Jedi and the Mandalorians is possibly the deciding factor to everything about his lightsaber. It appears that Tar's true loyalty perhaps did not lie with the Jedi, but with his home and his people of Mandalore. He crafted the Darksaber as a direct representation of Mandalore, from the material it was made of to the strange shape of the blade. It was a symbol of his heritage and proof of where his loyalty lied. What we do not know is if Tar Vizsla remembered Mandalore as his home planet before he was inducted into the Jedi, or if he learned it was by other means. What we can assume though is that at some point he would have had a certain capacity of rulership over his people, since that blade is now a symbol of the Mandalorian leader, and it is speculated that for a period of time Tar Vizsla was the actual ruler of the Mandalorian people. Back in the old days, around the time of Revan, the Mandalore symbol was their helmet, which would be claimed after a battle, but this status has been moved on to the Darksaber, possibly due to none other than Tar Vizsla. His allegiance to his people rather than the Jedi must have had some sort of effect within the Force, since he channeled his power and emotion into the Mandalorian people, and not the Jedi or the Sith. This resulted in a unique color for his Kyber crystal, one that wasn't of the light or the dark, but something entirely unique to him. We know that Kyber crystal colors react to the true nature of their user and their expression of how they view the Force. This is made exasperatingly clear with the High Republic Jedi. All of these Jedi have special perspectives on the Force, which affects the color of their lightsabers actively. But what we want to know is, what was Tar Vizsla's view on the Force that would result in the color of his blade being black? Perhaps it was a combination of his Force views and the make of the saber being of Beskar, or maybe black is the color of loyalty to one's people. This could make sense, as the Jedi eschew attachment to anyone, especially their home planet, and Sith do much of the same. No other Force user has crafted a saber for the direct intention of using it to protect and rule over their own people. Perhaps this is the secret to the blade's color and the construction, the fact that it is unique within the Force itself to be a Mandalorian. On this subject, it appears as if Tar Vizsla's connection to his saber went beyond the typical connection that a Jedi had to their weapon. Tar's connection to the Darksaber appears to have given it a sentience beyond what we typically see. The lightsaber itself reacts to whomever is wielding it, and will actively resist someone by becoming heavier. The blade's sentience carries into the very real fact that it is cursed. The curse of the Darksaber has merit, as the Children of the Watch were correct when Bo-Katan accepted the weapon without winning it. The result was the entirety of Mandalore being destroyed, its people scattered, and the blade being put into the possession of an Imperial of all people. Din Djarin won the lightsaber fair and square, but it is now apparent that he has a completely different idea of what a Mandalorian should be, and doesn't even appear to want the saber or its responsibility. It looks like this may change in time though, but what is clear is that the Darksaber has a will of its own, and the loyalty of its will is to Mandalore and its people. Well, my friends, I certainly hope you have enjoyed this holocron, but we want to know how excited you are for the third season of The Mandalorian, and do you think that we'll be uncovering the secrets of the Darksaber in the third season? We would also love to hear your thoughts on various theories that we proposed, and what kind of theories would you like to share of the Darksaber that you have? Until next time, may the Force be with you, and follow the way.